What's up, everybody? It's Flair, former 1%, and I'm here chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Flair, 1%er. What's up, man?
Yes, sir. What's happening, Staxx? Thank you for having me, bro. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Sure.
So you got a wild story.
Yeah, a little bit of a wild story, man. A little bit. I got into a motorcycle accident back in 2023 in August, and I got a spinal cord injury. I was drinking and riding. I was in a bad, tough spot, mentally, emotionally. I made a bad mistake by drinking and riding, and I lost control. Maybe 4 or 5 in the morning, something like that. And my bike started flipping, and I hit a wall, and I died on the spot. They brought me back to life, and then I've just been trying to recover since, man.
So you didn't hit another car? Another
Nah.
car didn't hit you? Nothing?
Nah, man. So I was on a bend, and I didn't lean enough, and my front tire hit the curb.
Oh,
Like it rubbed up against the curb, and I lost control, and I started flipping.
oh man.
Yeah. And I let the bike go. The bike kept going, and I hit the tree. I had a tree. It was right next to a wall, and the bike just kept going.
And were there people around? How did
So
they know?
I was with three of the guys from my club at the time. They were with me.
Wow, we're gonna get into it. So where you from? Where you born
I'm
and
from
raised?
Bronx, New York.
Born and raised?
Born and raised Bronx, New York. I was there till my accident happened, and then after my accident, my mom came to New York from Florida, and she was like, "Yeah, you're coming back to Florida with me," and I was like, "Yes, mom."
You're just like, that's it, I'm done?
Yes, sir. Because you know what, bro? It was. I already knew from the beginning. There was not going to be anybody who was going to be willing to do for me what she was willing to do for me.
Yeah.
So it was just it was a no-brainer to me.
You needed that constant care around the clock.
Absolutely.
But you were involved with a motorcycle club. You didn't think that they would be there for you like that?
I'm sure certain people would have been there for me, but it's also like, be there for me in what sense? I'm in a place where I need help with everything. I need help with, dressing myself and like, down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
You're not really asking another man to do that for you.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a comfortable situation.
When did you start getting involved with motorcycles?
So I bought my first bike back in 2018. Bought my first bike, and it was a dirt bike. I started on a Kawasaki KLX 250.
That's a big bike.
And I was just riding around, but that has dirt tires, so it came with dirt tires, and I would get on the highway with it, and once it hit like 50 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour, the tires would start wobbling, and I was like, yeah, fuck this, I don't want to do this, I want a real bike, and I went and got a Harley.
Did you have any association with any clubs before you got the bike?
No, I had no association with any clubs before I got the bike. And then even when I got the KLX 250, I met a few people who were riding already. There was a dude who I went to junior high school with, he was riding. A dude who I grew up with, he was riding. So I would just ride with them like on occasion, and I would meet people that they knew. And that's really I only knew a handful of people who were on two wheels, honestly.
There's a lot of motorcycle clubs in the Bronx.
I know. I figured that out when after a little while, after getting my Harley, I figured that out.
So what was your first experience with a motorcycle club? You buy the Harley and
so a friend of mine that I used to work with, he had a brother-in-law who used to ride, and his brother-in-law was the vice president of a motorcycle club called the Wild Aces. It's a 99 club, small family club. And he was like, "Oh, dude, like you should join my brother's club," and I was like, "That's not how this works. Like, that's not how this works, dude. Like, I gotta chill with them. I gotta get to know them. I got to hang out with them." And he was like, "Just join them." I was like, "Bro, I'm not doing that." Like, he was like,
You
"Trust me, they
do?
do."
They just let them join? They just let people join?
I don't know if it was like I don't know if they were gonna let me join just because I was recommended by somebody they knew, or I don't know what the situation was, but I didn't feel comfortable with joining the club that I didn't know. I didn't know anything about them. I didn't know, what their color stood for. I didn't know what they stood for. I didn't know, what they really believed in. I didn't know what they rode for. Things like that are important when you're looking to join a club.
Yeah.
So I didn't know any of that stuff. And then I told him, I said, give me your brother-in-law's number. I got his number, and he texted me. Well, I told him, give your brother-in-law my number. He texted me. We spoke a little bit. I asked him a bunch of questions. What do you guys do? What do you guys ride for? Like, what are you guys about? What are you guys into? Like, things like that. Just to pretty much the basic rundown. We spoke. We had a conversation, and a couple days later, we linked up. I linked up with a few of their guys, and it was all cool. It was all love, and I felt comfortable, and I ended up joining them.
Oh, so you joined the 99 club.
I did. I did. I joined them. About, I would say, about a month later, about a month after meeting all the guys and stuff. I joined them, and it was cool. It was cool
You get a
for
full
a
set
little
of
while.
colors after a
No,
month?
no, no, no. I was prospecting.
Oh,
I
so you
prospected.
still got a prospect.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Now, what was
And
that
honestly,
experience like?
I wouldn't have accepted full colors, bro. I, I'm,
Not
I'm
off the
very
bat like
big.
that. No.
I'm very big on earning what you get. So I would have never accepted colors just like that off the bat.
I mean, they have clubs that do that. They send you the
Oh,
cuts in the
absolutely,
mail. They send them to you in the mail.
absolutely, dude. It's it's actually pretty shameful what these clubs do these days.
It is. It's
It's
wild.
shameful, dude. Like, first of all, anybody put in your colors in the mail. It's a no, no, no. I don't care what club you're a part of. I don't care what you do. I don't care who you ride for. I don't care if you're a ministry club. Like, I don't care. You don't put your colors in the mail. That's just
No.
it doesn't work that way. And I know quite a few clubs that do it, and I have no respect for that.
So you start prospecting. What's that prospect period like for them?
So it's about a year. It's about a year. And it was cool. It was cool. It was bittersweet because I'm I'm a doer. So like I'm always doing things, and I'm always finding ways to figure new things out to make things happen. So when I was prospecting, I got a lot of pushback on certain things because they're like, "Oh, you're a prospect. You're a prospect. You're a prospect," and I'm like, "I'm a prospect. You guys are telling me you want prospects to do this, and then when I go and try to do this, it's a problem." So it was bittersweet. It was up and down. Uh, I stood there for about a year. A year. I got my full cut. I think in like 9 months. They gave it to
Now,
me early.
during this time, are you associated with any other clubs?
I'm getting to know other guys from other clubs. I'm meeting guys from other clubs. I'm getting real tight with dudes from other clubs, especially like 1% clubs because one thing I always understood was the dynamic of the MC world. I always knew diamonds are always, the ones running the show. The 99s are right under them, making friends with them, and I always understood because I'm from the streets. I'm from, I was in gangs and when I grew up, so I know how it goes. So I was pretty familiar with the whole process itself. So I got
Yeah.
to know whoever came around, whoever had good energy, whoever was good vibes. I would give them a shot, introduce myself, and get to know people, and really make sure that my colors were being shown.
Was your club that you were part of, was that a support club for a 1% club?
No, absolutely not.
So they didn't support
They were
any
just
any of them.
independent. Yeah, they were just an independent club. They're still out there. I got a lot of respect for those dudes, a lot of love for those guys. And believe it or not, a lot of those guys still, till this day, support me and help me keep going and reach out to me and make sure I'm all right. And a lot of love for those guys. A lot of
Yeah.
love for those guys still to this day.
So how does it transpire after that? You get your cut after 9 months, then what
So
happens?
I got my cut. And it was a whole big honestly. Some guys were upset that I got my cut early because you're supposed to prospect for a year and it was only 9 months and this and that, and it was a lot of arguments and bull. I ended up I ended up becoming a secretary about, I want to say, about 6 months later, maybe 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 6 months later. They voted me to become the secretary. I became the secretary, and then about 6 months after that, we had they used to do like annual votes on like positions, and about 6 months later, I was like, you know what? Like me and the vice president weren't really getting along too well, and I felt like he really wasn't doing what he should have been doing. And it's so crazy because he was actually the dude who brought me into the club. He
Oh,
was my
like your
sponsor.
sponsor? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
he was my sponsor. That was my boy's brother-in-law.
Oh
Like
man.
he was the vice president, and there was a lot of I felt like there was a lot of pushback when it came to me. Not everything. I felt like just specifically me and ideas that I brought to the table and things like that were being like, scrutinized and things like that. So I got to the point where I was just like, you know what, like this is bull. And I was like, they were like, oh, like we got elections coming up. I said, all right, cool. I said, all right, y'all want to play? Bet. I'm going for vice president.
So when you have an election coming up, do you have to like go around and campaign and talk to different members and be
I
like, "Yo,
didn't.
vote for me"?
I didn't. I don't know how. Remember, this was my first. This is my first time dealing with any elections or anything like that. So I wasn't sure how it worked. I just knew that I wasn't being treated fairly. Well, at least that's how I felt, and I knew that I had to make a change. So when the nominations came up, I was like, all right, I'm going for vice president. And everybody looked at me. They were like, serious? I'm like, yep. I'm like, whoever wants to vote for me, I appreciate it, and I can just show you guys what I'm willing to do. And sure enough, dude, they fucking voted me vice president.
Does it have to be a majority vote? How does it
And
work?
so in that club, it was majority. Some clubs are majority. Some clubs are unanimous. That club was majority, and it was so funny how it worked out because, like, we had a meeting. We had a meeting, and everybody was there except for the vice president and his best friend. They weren't at the meeting, but they were together, right? And they were the only two people who voted for him. Everybody else voted for me.
Because he had a problem with you.
Yeah, it was. Everybody could see what was going on, and everybody knew it wasn't fair. And even though they wouldn't speak up about it, they voted. I feel like they voted in the way that they thought was right.
Do you think he voted against you getting your patch early?
Absolutely, absolutely. I know he voted against it.
Wow, your own sponsor voting against
Yeah,
you.
and you know what, bro? Like I look back at it, and I don't know what happened. I don't know why he felt the way he felt. Um, I still to this day, dude. Like I still appreciate him for teaching me the things that he taught me, and just bringing me into the lifestyle. But I had to go my own way because I knew that I couldn't. I didn't. I wasn't able to deal with people like that. And when I say people like that, I mean like people who act unfairly. I'm not able to deal with that without, speaking up for myself, and I can't do it.
It's
I can't do it.
envy. I think it's envy, a little bit of jealousy.
Possibly. And you know what? Like it was, at the time he was always like, "Oh, I was the fastest person in Wild Days history to get my center patch and this, and that." So it always made me feel like, damn, maybe he's mad because I'm a better prospect than he was. I don't know. I don't. It was many possibilities, but I was just like, you know what, dude? Like I'm just gonna do what I gotta do to make changes. That's all.
So you get voted in as the vice president.
Yeah.
What's the next time you see him? And what is he pissed? Like, how
Um.
does that go?
So the next time I mean, after that, it was a bit awkward. It was a little awkward after that, and there was a lot of I feel like there was a lot of side eyes and a lot of people picking sides, and it was just uncomfortable. It was an uncomfortable situation, honestly. I felt like I felt like my bros were turning backs on me and stuff like because because I took somebody's position or whatever the case may be, and I didn't care, but it was also like, damn, dude, like I thought we were supposed to be cool. I thought we were supposed to be bros, like.
Yeah. Like you weren't feeling like welcome there anymore, right?
Exactly, and that's really what it came down to.
So what transpires next?
So I stood there for for a little while longer. I don't even remember how long. Not even a year, less than a year. And it got to the point where when I became vice president, I felt like certain things needed to be changed, and I tried to make those changes, and people weren't like they weren't perceiving what I was saying and in the proper ways, and they were taking it like I had a power trip and I was this young cat just trying to control everything, and I'm like, I'm trying to make changes, I'm trying to make things better. And it got to the point where I told the president, who was like one of my closest friends at the time, I told him, I said, dude, like, I'm gonna start I'm gonna start putting my hands on people. And he's like, oh, we don't do that, you can't do that. I'm like, well, who's gonna stop me? And he's like, oh, blah. And then me and him started getting into it. It was like, dude, like, I can't be here if this is what it's gonna be. And I ended up, I told, so my uncle, rest in peace, my uncle John, he was a Ching A Lings nomad, and he called me one day. He's like, dude, I'm riding up to Connecticut, take a ride with me. I said, cool, let's go. Take a ride up, and I'm chilling with the Ching A Lings nomads, and I'm just hanging out, and I'm talking to my uncle, and he's asking me how everything's going. I'm like, honestly, dude, like I'm not liking it. I'm not enjoying it. I feel like there's too much hating going on. There's too much, like it's not enough. There's not enough brotherhood going on for me. There's more. I feel like it's more bickering than anything. And he's like, dude, just come home. And I was like, no. It's like no. Like, and he was like, I'm telling you. I said, you know how I am. I said, me being in the Outlaw Club, it's not gonna be pretty for anybody. And my uncle was straight up like, this is where you need to be. This is where I want you to be, and you don't need to be at that club anymore. And I was like, let me think about it. And on the way home, I thought about it. And the fact that I thought about it, it made me choose right then and there. If I had to think about it, then I was already gone.
Yeah.
And that same day, I went back to New York. I packed all my shit up. I hit up the president. I was like, "Where you at?" He said he was in Jersey City at the time. The Jersey City charter had a clubhouse, and I said, "All right, I'm gonna meet you there." And I went there with all my stuff, anything I had from that club, any memorabilia, anything. And I said, "Dude, this is what it is. This is the situation. I'm out." And he was like, "I respect it. I don't want you to leave, but I love you, and I know that you're not going anywhere." And that was it. And a lot of people didn't like that I left. Some people even stopped talking to me. Um, but I was okay with it.
When you leave, do they make you out bad?
No,
And what are they
no,
still
and
talking to you? Are you good with them?
yeah. So I was good with them, but I also was like, I didn't care if they tried to put me out bad because like you're not an outlaw club, and I'm joining the outlaw club right now. So like what are you really gonna do to me? What are you gonna say to me? You know?
Yeah, really.
So I really didn't care.
Now the Ching A Lings is a pretty well known MC out there.
Yeah.
Tuxedo was a part of the Ching A Lings, wasn't
Yes,
he?
sir. Yes,
Yo,
sir.
what's your experience with them? What's the process? You go there to your uncle and they say, "Here's a prospect patch." Like what
So,
transpires?
they actually offered me a fullback because when I left my club, I was the vice president. So because they already knew who I was beforehand, because remember my uncle was a Chingling, so I would go there, I would hang out and things, I would bring my club there. So they already knew who I was. They already knew what I was doing on the scene. They already heard my name, so they wanted to give me a full patch. And I said no. I turned it down.
Now
And then
they're out of the Bronx, right?
yeah,
Are they out?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I turned it down. I said no. I said I want to prospect. And the president would looked at me like if I was crazy. And I said, yeah, I want to prospect, dude. Like I don't know nothing about you guys. And I said I need to learn how to be a Ching A Ling before I could feel comfortable wearing a full patch.
And they had to respect that.
Yeah, they did. They did. They respected it. And then I went. I started prospecting. So actually, I had went. So it was like usually they wait till you have church, which is the monthly meetings or whatever the case may be, and they'll bring you in. But I went to the clubhouse the next day to just hang out, to just chill with them, just to get to know the guys and stuff. And the president called me in, and he gave me patches that same day. That next day, yeah, he gave me and it was just a. So what I told them was like they gave me top rocker, bottom rocker, and MC, no center patch. And I said, okay, I'm good with that. But I just wasn't good with having a full back. I wasn't okay with that.
And that the Ching A Lings have a controversial back piece on their
Yeah,
pads, on their cuts.
yeah,
What did you think of that? Like before you joined, what were your thoughts on that back patch?
dude. I grew up reading articles about these dudes. I grew up watching videos. Even before I ever thought about getting on a motorcycle. Like I grew up, knowing who these guys were, and I grew up respecting that patch and knowing the history and knowing that, Black Eddie was fully Puerto Rican, and he's the one who brought that swastika about. Um, I'm Puerto Rican, my family's Puerto Rican, so for me it was just if Black Eddie could do it, I could do it too.
There's other
That,
clubs that have the
and that's the
same.
patch. That's the patch that I wore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Like you have a choice because there's two different patches. So when you
Oh,
get your center patch,
they give you a choice.
yeah, they give you a choice. You have a choice. You can choose the swastika or you can choose the Maltese cross, and I chose the swastika because I believe in originality, and I believe in going back to the roots, and that's what I wanted to do.
How many people had the same patch as you, the swastika on the back?
There were quite a few. There were quite a few, but most of the guys that wore the swastika patch were the older guys. Guys that been there for a while, guys that know, what comes with wearing the swastika, because that's one thing. There's a lot of backlash that comes with that swastika. There are dudes that almost got run off the road for that swastika.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. So I wore it with pride, man. I wore it with pride. It's nothing about race. It's nothing about Hitler. It's nothing about the Holocaust. There's much deeper meaning to swastikas before Hitler adapted it. So I did my research, and I had no problem wearing it, and I wore it proudly.
So before you get to that point,
Yes, sir.
what was the prospect period like?
Um, it depends, man, because I'll be honest, bro. I feel like when I came in, when I went into the Ching A Lings, I was like gung ho everything. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be that guy. Like I wanted to be that guy, and I was, and I felt like a lot of guys kind of like they looked at me and they didn't see a prospect. So I used to have to like force my way into certain things because they wouldn't always treat me like a normal prospect.
They
So
were
I had to kind of,
treating you like a member, right?
yeah, and that it kind of caused trouble with the prospects because the prospects that were there already, now they're looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy, and like, how the fuck is he coming in with all these special privileges, and it puts me in a bad spot.
How many prospects do they have at this point?
At the time when I came in, it was me. There were 5 prospects. I was number 5. I was number
So
5.
yeah, it looks a little like, damn, who is this guy? He comes in
Right.
here just throwing his weight around, and we've been putting in work, right?
And it's so funny because, you know, If only they would have took the time to actually get to know the situation of what happened, they would have known that these was offering me a fullback and I declined it.
You could have jumped right over
I
them
could have been
all.
right above all of you, and I chose to be on your level.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know, like I chose that, and you guys are sitting here mad at me. Like I don't understand.
Do you get patched in before the prospects, or do they get
No,
some patches
no, no,
first?
no, 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 no. I got patched in. So I prospected for about 5 months. For about 5 months, then they gave me my center patch. And then when I got my center patch, I think three of the other prospects also got their center patches. So it was cool. It was smooth. It wasn't much hating going on at the time. I don't think there was at least. And then about I would say that happened in June, and then come December, the president took my center patch back. Yeah,
What?
I got in trouble. Well, trouble, quote unquote trouble. I did something that they didn't agree with, and and they said they wanted the center patch, and I gave it up with no problem. And they were like, "Oh, you're just gonna give up the patch?" Blah blah. I said, I'm Flair with or without that patch," and they didn't like
So,
that.
do you mind telling me what the problem was?
I went on vacation. That was it, bro. I went
And
to
you
Puerto
didn't.
Rico.
What did you
I
not
went.
tell them?
I went. No, I told them. I went to Puerto Rico for about I think 5 days. But see, at the time, you know, the clubhouse, you know, had a lot going on, so they wanted guys there, and me being a prospect. So this is the thing with the Ching A Lings. With the Ching A Lings is even if you have a center patch, you can have a full back and still be considered a prospect. So they looked at me and they were like, "Oh, you know, you're still a prospect because I didn't have my heart patch. Heart patch is like the main patch for the Chinglings that solidifies you. Once you get your heart patch, then you're solidified. You're a brother, you know, you're a brother.
Yeah, yeah,
So, you know, I didn't have that patch yet. So they still, you know, some guys like to treat me still as a prospect, and some guys, you know, show me the respect. But you know, they were like, "Oh, you know, we need you here and this and that." And I'm like, dude, like I got a life too. Right.
yeah. Like
And
you
when
got your own obligations
you know
to.
they called me while I was out there, and they were like, "Oh, you know." So originally my vacation was only supposed to be for the weekend, and I had extended it a couple days. So they got mad that I extended. They was mad that I was away for the weekend. Point of all, but then when I extended it, they got even more mad. So I spoke to the vice president, and he was my outlaw father at the time. And he was like, "Dude, you know this is what it is. This is what it is. You're just gonna have to come back and face the music." I said, "Fine, cool." Came back as soon as I got back the same day. I went home, got dressed, showered. I went straight to the clubhouse. The president is like, "Oh, come to the back, sit down." I sat down with the president. He starts talking to me. He's like, "Oh, take the pat." Took it off. He's like, "Oh, you're not gonna ask why?" I said, "No, I don't need. To, I don't need to know."
Do you think if you would have said, "I'm not taking the patch off," you think they would have let you keep it on?
Um,
You think if
if
maybe
they
it was a test?
see now, here's the thing with that, right? The thing with that is that I'm I wouldn't have respected them had I said, "No, you're not getting this patch," and they were like, "Okay." After that, nobody could tell me a thing.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even have set that up for myself because I have so much respect for this patch that I'm not going to disrespect this patch by disrespecting the president. So I took it off and I gave it to him. And I don't know, like I said, he you know he was like, "Oh, you're not gonna ask why?" I guess he was a little upset that I wasn't so caring of them taking my center patch. But like I said, I told him straight up, with or without this patch, I'm still gonna be Flair. I was Flair before that patch.
They say a man makes the patch, and it's true.
But that's the thing. At the time, you know, at the time, the president at the time, he would uh he would kind of dangle patches in front of people, and people would be jumping and you know trying to jump through hoops to get those patches. And I'm not that dude. I'm not that dude, man. Like, you can't sway me with a patch.
A lot of clubs out there do that, where they're, oh, you always must listen to another member, and then they play these games like, oh, you're not going to fight for the patch? Oh, we weren't going to take it anyway, or something like that, you know?
Yeah, but things like that, man, like, that's not something to play with, man. Honest truth, like, it's not something to play with. 'Cause you know why? Because people earn these patches. People go hard for these patches, and yeah, I might not have prospect for as long as your normal prospect, but I didn't even have to prospect, and I still did it. You know, I earned my patch, so yeah, I care about my patch, but you're not gonna get me to do a dance because you're waving my patch in front of my face. That's not. I'm good.
Do you feel like some of the people in the club had a like power tripping
Absolutely.
a little bit?
I think people in every club power trip. I think there's someone in every club that power trips at some point in time.
They feel like they put on the patch and it makes them someone else, right?
And it's not everybody, but every club has at least one. Every club.
Yeah, it makes them 6 feet tall all of a sudden, and 10 feet tall, and they know
Absolutely.
how to fight. And a lot of times people will get like mouthy because they have a patch on, because they think people won't challenge it,
I've
you
seen
know?
it. I've seen it. I've been there. It's shameful. It's actually pretty shameful how easy it is to to put a 1% patch on your chest. It's so easy, and it's sad.
Any situations happen when you were prospecting or in between this time that we're talking about that stand out in your mind that you could tell me about?
Absolutely. I mean, there were many situations. There were many situations that came about. One of the situations I can share with you might be a little deep. Some of the guys from the club may not like that I share it, but I don't give a fuck. I'm a man. At the time when I came in, there was a sergeant at arms. There was a sergeant at arms, and for some reason, he just he always rubbed me the wrong way. Like, it was like he was one of those dudes that was power tripping all the time, and he was he was a tiny he was a tiny dude. He must have been 5'5", skinny as shit, maybe 150 pounds, soaking wet, and he was a sergeant at arms. So I'm thinking, this guy must be the real deal. Like, if he's a sergeant at arms, this guy must be the real deal. There was a lot of bullshit that happened. I'm not gonna get into details about everything. There was a lot of bullshit that was going on, and I didn't respect how he was moving around and how he was taking his patch and taking advantage of certain things. I literally seen him steal from the club. I literally seen him steal from the club. Like, so there were things that I was bringing out, and I was talking to other guys. No, not snitching, but just trying to get
Yeah,
what
but
do
if
you
someone's
do?
stealing from the club, like how would he be stealing from the club?
So that's the thing. So it was, like I said, at the time, we had a lot going on in the club. Like I said, I'm not gonna get into too much detail with that because I'm not gonna put anybody at risk. Dude, uh, he was the one that handled all of the money. All of the money had to go through him. No matter what the money was from, no matter where it came from, everything had to go through him. And I didn't understand that, and I seen it firsthand. Uh, he was supposed to split the money one time with somebody else. He took the money out. He said, "This is how much we made." He said, "Tell them we made this," and he gave them. He gave me a certain amount of money. He said, "Give them this," and I see him put the rest of the money in his pocket. Now I'm prospecting at the time, so he may think, "Oh, this prospect can't say shit. He can't do." Like, whatever, cool. Anyways, at the time, I brought it. I brought it to the president's attention, and I brought it to the vice president's attention at the time, and he was just pretty much like, "All right, bring it to the president." So I brought it to the president, and he was just pretty much like in one ear out the other, and act like he didn't even hear it.
Wow.
So, okay. So I didn't like it. I didn't like now I didn't like the situation. Now I didn't like this guy because I know you're doing fucked up. I've already brought it to the president's attention. I brought it to the vice president's attention, which are the only two people above the sergeant at arms.
And are you paying money? Are you paying dues and
Yeah,
things like that?
yeah,
So your money's going through this guy's hands.
yeah, yeah. So I'm like, I'm like, fuck, man. Like, so everything that's happening, everything that happens, everything he says, everything that I don't like, now I'm looking for a reason to kind of like egg it on. And it gets to a point that he I had a girl at the time. He went and he started telling my girl at the time club business. Right. And I went to him and I said, I didn't respect it, whatever the case may be. So I didn't go to him. I went to my vice president and I said, look, this is what it is. This is a situation. I feel violated. And as a man, I want to fight. And he was like, you serious? I said, straight up. Like me and him, just me and him. I need my one on. And he was like, okay. He was like, this is old school Ching A Ling way. Like, he was like, all right. So I went into the meeting that day. I took off my vest. I put my vest on the table. I said, I want 5 minutes with this guy. The president said, oh, what? I said, this, and that. This happened. I want my 5 minutes. I looked at him. He said, why should I give you 5 minutes? I swear. He said, why should I give you 5 minutes? I explained myself. I said, you said this. You did this. You said this. I don't respect it. I feel violated. It's not about the club. This is a personal issue. It's you and me. He told me, I don't respect your 5 minutes. So he said. So I looked at the president. I said, this is your sergeant at arms? The president put his head down. I kid you not.
What?
Dude, I'm not. I swear, I'm not joking. I'm not making shit up. He put his head down. The
He's
vice
supposed to
president.
enforce the rules. He's supposed to be a rule enforcer, right?
First of
Basically.
all, I'll tell you straight up. You, my sergeant at arms, somebody calls you out. If you don't put hands on that person, give me your patches. All of them. With an ass whipping. And give me a bike on top of it.
Wow.
So, ended up, like the vice president stepped up. He's like, oh, look, I don't want to hear nothing about this anymore, blah, blah. Cool. So obviously nothing was ever solved. So now I'm walking around. So now, remember I told you before that I said if I would have told them, you're not getting this patch and they would have left me with it, I would have never respected it. Now that's how I'm feeling. Now nobody can tell me nothing.
Yeah,
Nobody.
now you see it for what it is. Like,
Because at the end of the day, your sergeant at arms is who is supposed to enforce the rules. So if I do something wrong, who are you gonna call? I dare you call your sergeant at arms. I dare you. So who are you gonna call? So I went on a little rampage. And
now, before this point, have you ever seen a fight happen between members?
between members, no, not between members. But I've heard many stories
I mean,
about members.
it's a simple little fist fight, like to settle a
Right,
dispute. That's the way to do it, right?
happens. I mean, listen, you get it off your chest. You get it off your chest. You shake hands after. You have a drink, and you go about your day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'll gain respect for you out of this. Everybody has
100%.
a different viewpoint on this. Some guys don't like it. Some guys feel like you lose respect when you put hands on somebody. Some guys, I feel like we're men, and sometimes men need to get hands put on them.
Yeah, I mean, there's situations when it calls for it, you know.
Absolutely, brother or
So
not.
so now there's tension between you guys, and it's known. I mean, he kind of knew before because of the stealing thing, but now it's known, right? So what
Now
happens next?
everybody knows. So I stood there for about almost another year. Almost, no, I'm lying. I stood there for a few months, and then I got to the point where I was like, I don't respect what you guys have going on here. Like I said, there was a lot of going on with the club, and there's a lot of personal things that were going on, and I didn't feel like that's where I belonged anymore. So I went into church one day, and I put my colors on the table, and I said, I'm done. I said, I'm done here. I said, this is not what I joined. This is not my exact words. I remember it like it was yesterday. My exact words were, when I came here, I never felt like I belonged anywhere until I became a Ching A Ling. But I come in here today and I don't even recognize who I am anymore, and I'm not okay with that. And I said, that's not what I signed up for. And I put my patch down, and they thought it was over a situation that had nothing to do with, what it was about. I'm not gonna say, like I said, I'm not gonna say too much because I'm not gonna, get certain people in trouble. But when I put my patches down, three other guys put their patches down.
Wow.
Yeah, and all four of us went, and we went to the president from the upstate charter, from the upstate New York charter, and I sat down with him and I said, "Look, this is a situation. This is what it is. Me and the guys, we want to we want to come up and prospect with you."
Now, how many charters is there? There's one in the Bronx.
Well, at the time there was one. There was one in the Bronx. There was one up in Middletown. There were actually two in the Bronx at the time. There were two in the Bronx. There was one up in Middletown. There was one in Connecticut. Um, and there were a few guys out in Jersey. Those are the only in the tri-state area that those were the guys that we had in the tri-state area. Those guys at the time. Now I'm really not sure how many they got. Now I still have my guys that are in the club that I still have a lot of love for, but club business is not my business. So I don't really, I'm not sure how much
So
charges they have now.
you go up to upstate. Is it a far ride up there?
Oh, it's about a hour and 10 minutes.
So if they need you, you can go there and be there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do they what does he say when do
So
you bring
he's
all these guys with you?
mhm. So I go up there. Like I said, I talked to him and I let him know what the situation is. He said, "Oh, cool." And he's like, I tell him straight up. I said, "Look, if we do this, I want I want all four of us to start bottom rockers only. Bottom rockers only." And he said, "Oh, yeah, la, la." And we started bottom rockers only. And
So did you have the member patch yet though? No. So you weren't like a full member, but you had a back patch.
all I had was bottom rocker MC. That's it. And I earned my patches back the way they're supposed to get earned. All four of us.
Was it a different process up there than it was from down there?
Slightly because they knew that I was prospecting, that I didn't need to prospect. Like they knew that I already knew how to move as a member. They just, I just wanted to prospect because I didn't want it to be, oh, they went up there and they got their patches. They just went up there. I didn't want it to be none of that. We earned our patches. We left. We earned our patches outright. Nobody could say a thing about how it happened.
Yeah, but so you guys leaving the Bronx, they can't make an issue with it with them up there and
So
try to cut it.
they could have, but at the time, so at the time, right? Um, one of the guys from the upstate charter happened to be in the city in this time, right? So he said, when when you're in a club, now I don't know how every other club works, but certain clubs, if another charter is having a meeting, as long as you're a full patch member, you can attend that charter's meeting. So he was attending the meeting. So I made sure to be very clear of everything that I needed him to say. And one of the things that I made him clear out say was, "You're good." So once you say, "I'm good, I'm not out bad," you have no reason to put me out bad. So I made sure that I did it in a way that he couldn't put me out bad. Because if he would have put me out bad, then it's just like, that's just a personal situation.
But then you wouldn't be able to go get your batches up there.
Right.
It would be done.
Absolutely. But I played it in a way where it wasn't, I wasn't overly aggressive or anything like that. I was just straight up like, "Look, dude, like, this is not for me," and that's that. And nobody knew that I was, gonna go upstate or anything like that. I knew.
They thought you were just laying your patches and walking away.
Mm-hmm.
But your plan was to go up there and
Yes.
and join them.
Mm-hmm.
When you start prospecting for them, do you ever run into these guys with your new patches on?
My first time coming out with patches was at an event in the Bronx at one of their parties.
And what happens?
It was actually every first Sunday of September they throw a big celebration for Black Eddie because he died in the beginning of September. So they throw a big celebration for him every year, and that was when I went back with my patches.
And what happens? What do they say when they see you?
Nothing happened because it came out beforehand. It came out before the event that, like, it was like some rumors going around.
Yeah.
So the president, like, they called the president from upstate and they were like, "Oh, what's going on?" Blah, blah. And he told them straight up. He said, "Look, we're not beating around the bush. Those guys are with me now. That's it. Simple." And that was it. Like, they didn't question it or nothing. They didn't, that was that.
So when you go to the event, are they like shocked a
Uh,
little bit?
yeah, absolutely. Not a little bit, a lot of it. They
Like,
they
what
were
the?
absolutely. And then it was they were I feel like they were mad, but they couldn't show it. You know, but yeah, I was happy. I was happy. I was happy.
But you just have a bottom rocker at this point in the MC, right?
Just bottom rock at MC,
So they know what it is,
and
obviously.
I was still happy.
Yeah.
I was still happy, dude.
But so you being a prospect, you still have to show respect to the
Yeah.
people that are in the club.
Yes.
Can they like tell you to do stuff? Being from that chapter, like, what's
Yes.
that about?
Yes. So the president at the time, he told me straight up. He said, "You don't take orders from nobody from that charter. You take orders from this charter." So I understand, but I know why he was telling me that, because he knew what the situation was with the guys in the Bronx, and he knew that they were going to try to take advantage because I was a prospect again, because my guys were prospects again. And sure enough, they did. They tried. Not with me, but one of the guys that I went upstate with, they tried it.
What did they? What happened?
I forgot what it was, but they tried to, like, make him do some. I don't remember the exact situation that happened.
Something like do security or watch that
It was
bike
like,
or something.
yeah, but they did it like they were trying to, like, be overly aggressive about it. So he brought it to the president from the upstate charter, and that president went to the president from the Bronx, and that got squashed, like, immediately. Like, it immediately got handled.
So then, how long until you get your patches?
I would say about 8-9 months, something like that.
After you get your patches, when you finally get your patches, you get the straight up member patches this time, right? What's that feeling like?
Well, no, I don't. I get the full back again, and I still have to earn the last patch. That last patch, I still had to earn that patch.
Yeah.
I still had to earn it because so that was the thing in the Bronx. They didn't want to give me that patch because when you get that patch, then you qualify to become an officer. Then you qualify. You can't be an officer with just a pullback. You know, you have to have that last patch in order to qualify for these extra things. So I felt like in the Bronx they weren't trying to give me that last patch because they didn't want me to hold a position. They didn't want me to have any authority.
Yeah.
So I worked for the patch upstate. I got the patch, and within a few months, I was back in the Bronx. I was
And
back in the Bronx within a few
what was that
months.
experience like? Once you go back to the Bronx, you have the full patch. Now you're a full-fledged member, right?
Well, it was it was a it was a little rocky because the reasoning of me going back to the Bronx wasn't the best. So I I became the sergeant at arms upstate. I ended up becoming the sergeant at arms upstate, and now something happens in the Bronx with the Bronx Charter, and the president in the Bronx is not doing his job or what he's supposed to be doing. So the national charter comes together and says, "Look, you know, we have to change something in the Bronx." So the guy that they want to come in and take over as president in the Bronx, he tells the national charter, he says, "I'll take over the Bronx, but the only way I'm doing it is if I can have Flair as my VP."
What?
Right.
And
And
do you know about this, or is
no,
this you
no,
coming in from left field?
I don't know nothing about this. So I don't know, dude. I know nothing about this. I know about. I'm already agreeing to transfer to back to the Bronx because I lived in the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx. I was born and raised in the Bronx. I didn't want to leave the Bronx in the first place.
Yeah.
I only left because of everything that happened.
So now
But
you live upstate now?
no,
You
no.
live
I was
by
still
these
living in the
guys?
Bronx.
Oh, but you're just driving up. You're riding up there.
Yeah. So something happens. Something happened, and you know, the new president or whatever is not living up to his name. So national comes around, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta make this change, whatever the case may be." I say, "Okay, I'm willing to transfer back to the Bronx because you're gonna need guys. I'm willing to transfer back to the Bronx. Me and the three other guys. Well, it's actually four other guys now because I had another guy with me that was upstate, and I brought him back. So we come back, and dude, we were about to have this meeting, and the president pulls me to the side. He says, "Look, you know, I want you to be my VP." And I'm like, "The f- do you mean? Like, this is 10 minutes before we're going into this meeting." Like, I'm like, "What the f-? Like, I just became the sergeant at arms upstate." I'm like, so we go into the meeting, and I accept it, you know, and that was that. I came back as the vice president.
So now, but the old president that they took out, does he lose his patch altogether, or is he still in the club?
No, so he's still in the club, but the president that was taking over with me just said, you know, I feel I feel like you guys shouldn't be in this charter. And I understood. And I definitely understood. So there was a handful of guys that left the Bronx charter and went to the Connecticut charter. And we kind of stepped in and tried to pick up, you know, whatever pieces were left over.
Now that you're a full-fledged member, when you're out in public, is there any situations that happen to you because of the back patch?
Oh, no. No. I was pretty fortunate. I didn't have to deal with any. I mean, people always looked at me, you know, gave me dirty looks, and you know, you can always hear people like mentioning the swastika, but I hadn't had anybody who ever really brought anything to my face or no,
Have you had
never.
anybody in your charter that happened to?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
what
A couple.
transpired?
One of my guys almost got ran off the road because he was wearing a swastika.
So when they see him, they see it on his back, and they're
Run him
like,
off the
"Oh
side
no,"
of the road and keep going.
because they don't understand what it is.
All they do is they see the swastika and they, you know, and you know, it's understandable for certain people. Like, you know, if you have family members, if you're Jewish, if you have family members that were in the Holocaust and things like, I understand it. but that's not what this is about, man. Like, and they don't understand it.
Yeah, it gets misrepresented, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. I tell everybody do some research, man. Do some reading before you come to me with any questions about a swastika.
So, like the Heathens Motorcycle Family, they have a vulture
Yeah.
standing on a swastika.
Yep.
They have a black member, and I interviewed him. He explained it all. He's the first African American member in the whole club.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm like, how did this even happen?
Right.
And he says it's because of that symbol is how it even transpired, how he even became a member. Because
Yeah.
people were like, yo, there's these guys in here and they have swastikas on their back. I think there's going to be a problem. And they went right up to him and they said, I don't know what your friend told you, but that's not what this is about.
Right.
And they all got tight and he ended up becoming a member and he's a member now.
Nice.
So things change, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's it like to be the vice president now of this club?
Not easy. Not easy, man. At the time, I'm 28 years old. 28 years old at the time of a club, that's been around for 60 years. You know, guys, you got guys that have been there for 20 years, 30 years, and they're looking at me like, who the fuck are you? And I'm the vice president. And these, so it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. I'm not
It's a
gonna
lot of
lie.
pressure, right?
It was a lot of pressure, and there was a lot of like, it's almost like having to prove yourself almost. But I always felt like I didn't have to prove myself to anybody. Like, I wouldn't be the vice president if it wasn't for me.
Yeah, you worked your way up to it.
Yeah.
You earned it.
So, and it's like, like, it wasn't like, oh, I just came in and became vice president. No, like, I came in, I prospected, you guys took my center patch, I prospected again, you gave it back, I left this charter, I prospected again upstate, I prospected 3 times as a Ching A Lings.
That's wild.
And I was the sergeant at arms upstate, so it's like I worked my way around to get this position, like.
But they're looking at you like, who are you to tell us what to do?
Dude, I've had to, stop people in their tracks. Whoa, pump your brakes, dude. Like, I don't give a fuck how long you've been here. I'm not that one. Like, I'm not that dude, man. Like, I'm telling you, watch your face, bro.
So was there any drama going on to where people ended up getting into fights? And was it a little different once these other people were out or pushed to the side, the other officer, and because he wasn't the enforcer no more, right?
No. Well, before I transferred back to the Bronx, when I was in the upstate charter, something happened in the Bronx, and he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And it was something that happened that, I'm not going to repeat, but something that really shouldn't have happened. And I was out. I was out in the club with my boy. It was his birthday, and I get a phone call, and I immediately went to the Bronx to the clubhouse. And when I got there, I asked this dude, like, what happened? He's explaining to me this and that, this and this. And I'm with my sergeant at arms from upstate. We're out in the club, like, we're hanging out. So I'm with my sergeant at arms from upstate, and we're like, what happened? He starts telling a story, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, you did what? You said what? I'm like, no, there's no way. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. He's like, I didn't want to get the bros into more issues. Long story short, I beat the out of him.
Right, so you end up getting your 5 minutes anyway.
So long story, dude, he says, he says some shit, and he's like, oh, I didn't want to get the bros into more issues. That was his excuse for not handling business. I punch him right in his face. Right in his and I start going to town. And his president is standing right there. His president is sitting right there. I'm with my vice president. There's like 3 other guys in the room from that charter, and I'm going to town. And they pull me off of him, and I look at his president, and I said, "This is not your sergeant at arms. This is not a member. He's not a brother. He's nothing. And I'm not leaving this clubhouse without his colors."
Man.
Sure enough, he left without his colors.
So that was it. He was done.
That was it. That was it.
So you got your 5 minutes.
I got my 5 minutes. I did. Thank God.
But the club's probably better without him. Someone like
Absolutely.
that, you know.
Absolutely. People like him dig graves and then jump in them. They don't dig graves to other people. They dig graves for themselves.
I could understand there's a time when to do things, there's a time when not to. But if you miss this opportunity where it's pretty, you know, you lose face with a lot of things.
Well, no. Honestly, not me. Because you want to know something, bro? Like, that wasn't my situation to handle.
No, it was his.
He should no. It was the charter. The Bronx charter should have handled that situation before I even got there.
Yeah, with him.
Yeah,
but he should have handled the situation that he had at hand. Yeah,
but what I'm saying is the fact that he didn't handle that situation, he should have been handled.
100%.
And the fact that nobody handled him, it put me in a spot where it's like, as a member, as a brother, wearing this cut, if I don't do this right now, I'm gonna feel like I didn't do what I had to do. So I did what I had to do.
Maybe, I don't know what could be the reason. Maybe they didn't want to speak up, or I don't know.
It was just one of those things where, well, one, I can tell you straight up, the president. Remember, I told you he was stealing. The sergeant was stealing, and I told the president. The reason that the president didn't do nothing about it was because he was splitting the money with him.
It makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
And then when the fight thing happened with you, he's like, "I'm not gonna let that."
Exactly. And he wasn't gonna put the sergeant at arms on the spot either, because that's his boy, and that's who he's breaking bread with.
And then when this situation happens, he doesn't want to get rid of him again because he doesn't want to lose out.
Exactly. And me, I was like, yeah, we're not doing this. I'm not standing for this again.
So that's it. He's gone. So what happens after that happens?
So after that, they changed the president. They changed the president, vice president, sergeant at arms, everybody. And then a few months down the line is when, National steps in and they say, this new president is not doing what he's supposed to do. And then that's when they called in for reinforcements, and I ended up back in the Bronx, and everything started going back to normal.
Now, during this time, is there any major accidents that happen within the club?
Accidents as far as what?
Motorcycle accidents. Are you guys riding in a pack a lot?
Yeah. We used to always ride in a pack. It wasn't many accidents. I mean, guys would go down here and there, but like not anything major really at the time. There wasn't much major going on at the time.
Were you guys riding far?
It depends. Like me, I was riding everywhere. Like I rode to Florida by myself.
With your patch on?
With my patch on. As a prospect. No center patch. I rode to Florida by myself.
Damn.
Yes.
That's a long ride.
Oh yeah. It is. It definitely is. I rode to Florida twice, but I rode by myself as a Ching A Lings, as a prospect.
That's wild.
Yeah. It's so we didn't have many accidents at the time. Guys in the Bronx weren't riding like that. Their lives were spent in the clubhouse. And that's another thing that I didn't like. That's another reason why I didn't want to be there. It's like, I don't do nothing. All you gotta do is stay here, do nothing. Like,
was there a lot of young members, or are you one of the youngest?
When I came in, I was the youngest. When I came in, and then there came one younger dude than me. It was one dude that was younger than me. He came in after me, and he ended up becoming like one of my closest dudes from the club. They were There were like a handful of us younger guys. I ended up making what is called the baby chings, and that was pretty much like anybody 30 years old and under who was a chingling because there was only a handful of us.
Yeah.
So that was like the baby chings was a new thing. Like there wasn't many young people. A lot of the guys were older guys.
You guys are mingling with other clubs at this point, right?
Yes.
Like going to different events and things like that.
Yep.
Is there any drama popping off with any other clubs?
Um, I mean, it depends on what you would consider drama. Um,
Any
there
fights?
was situations, not really any fights, between clubs. Like situations, uh, a couple of confrontations between, somebody from our club and people from other clubs. Just
And then
small
what? So
things.
there would be like one person have a problem, and then you guys have to have a discussion
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, and then it'll be like, and then it'll go to the higher ups, and then we gotta have sit downs, and like for example, like when I came back to the Bronx, the Bronx charter had an issue with with another club, and one of the first things I did when I came back to the Bronx was go to that clubhouse and talk to those guys and be like, look, I'm in the Bronx now, so we always had a good relationship, so what's gonna happen, and we sat down and we spoke and
And there's quite a few clubs in
oh,
the
there's so many
Bronx,
clubs in the Bronx, so
like
many,
tons.
so many.
Probably 30, right?
Maybe even more than that.
That's wild that there's that many clubs
Because
in
there's a lot of 99 clubs in the Bronx. A lot of 99 clubs in the Bronx. I mean, 1% clubs. You have like the main guys. The main guys. You have about, I would say, 1% clubs in the Bronx. You have about 7, 8, 1% clubs in the Bronx. Easy,
Now with the
easy.
Ching A Lings, do you have to earn your diamond?
Originally, so a lot of things had changed, and I don't know why, but originally, when I came in, you had to be given your diamond. You couldn't go put your own diamond on. You couldn't go just buy a diamond. Like you had to be given a diamond in order to put a diamond on your vest. And I don't know. Some people that was a big thing for me too because I was given a diamond. I was given a diamond, and when I put the diamond on my vest, other guys started going and put diamonds on their vest. And there was this one dude, right, that he went that the president called him to the back and said, "Oh, what's up with that diamond?" And he's like, "Oh, this and that. This person gave it to me." And he's like, "Oh, well, I didn't say you could put that diamond on." And they're like, "Oh, but Flair got one, la la la." It's like, "Yeah, Flair can carry himself. He knows how to wear a diamond." So it was like one of those things where people wanted to put diamonds on just because they see me put a diamond on. So the guys behind me wanted to put diamonds on, but it's like you didn't earn that diamond. Like
Some clubs, everyone gets a diamond. Some clubs, they have to earn it.
yeah, so now I know now like it's pretty stationary. It's pretty uniform. Because they have just one diamond and it's pretty uniform. I think if you go, I don't, I'm no, I'm not even gonna say that. I'm not even gonna say that you can because I'm not sure. When I was there, it wasn't. You couldn't just buy a diamond and put it on. You had to earn it.
Do you think it should be uniform, or do you think you should have to earn the diamond?
I think you should earn a diamond. I don't think a diamond should be given, and I also don't think that everybody should wear a diamond. Just because you're in a 1% club doesn't. I don't feel like that should give you the right to wear a diamond.
So, what does it mean to be a one percenter to you?
A 1%er, a 1%er to me is just an outlaw who rides a bike. That's all a 1%er is. I take more pride in being an outlaw than a 1%er. I'm an outlaw. Always been, always will be. The 1%er thing is cool, but I'm an outlaw first. I wasn't always on a motorcycle.
The media tries to portray clubs as these gangs and criminal enterprises. What do you say to that description of the clubs?
Don't judge a book by its cover, man. Like, man, I tell you straight up, outlaws, one percenters, outlaw clubs do more charity work than anybody. We do more for the community than anybody. We take care of the community, and that's how it always has been. So, I mean, I don't see how they can portray such a. I mean, I can see why Sons of Anarchy just fucked everything up, but
And there's bad apples in any
absolutely,
organization. There's bad apples. When
absolutely,
someone commits a crime and is part of a church, they don't call the church a criminal enterprise, right?
exactly, exactly, exactly.
How long after you get your VP spot does this accident happen to you?
Almost a year.
Any situations in between that time and the accident? Any crazy situations happen to you?
Nah, man. Honestly, like when I got back to the Bronx charter, like I came back with a lot of respect, man, and I had a good rapport with a lot of guys in the Bronx, a lot of different clubs, a lot of different you know motorcycle club, auto clubs, so like you name it, like a lot of people knew who Flair was, and I was cool. I was a cool dude, I was cool with mostly everybody. So I feel like when I came back to the Bronx, it kind of brought a little more respect back to the Bronx. Like more like we're not really gonna with those guys because the old guys aren't there anymore. It's the good guys. Like,
Yeah.
so there weren't really any situations. I told you I had a couple of sit downs here and there, but nothing major.
What about the police? Did the police harass you guys a lot?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They loved us. I don't know why.
Would there
I
be
think,
surveillance and all that on you
I,
guys?
dude, I came to the clubhouse one time. There was a cop car parked right in front of the clubhouse on the sidewalk, and then another cop car parked across the street on the sidewalk. There'll be times. There was this one time I was in the clubhouse. I came out the clubhouse to go to the store. There's a cop standing right next to the door with his foot on the wall, just posted up on the wall next to the door. Like they used to love us, man. They used to love being around us.
Would they pull you over a lot and things like that?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what, search you guys, asking you all kind of.
everything, everything. You name it. They just love to harass us.
A lot of club members tell me the same thing, that there's
Yeah,
always cops harassing them.
they loved it, and the Ching A Lings, it's been around for a long time, so the name is known. You know, so the cops see the vest and they see the colors, they see the font. They see, they just want to start something. I kid you not. I'm not kidding. I was a Chingaling for not even 2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks, I swear. I was walking to the store with another Chingaling, and a DT car, a detective car, pulls up, and they're driving next to us, and they're like, "How's that new Road Glide?" I had just bought a new Road Glide. The day before I became the day after I became a Chingaling, I got a Road Glide. I didn't have this bike for 2 weeks yet, and the undercover's like, "How's that new Road Glide?"
So he knew. He's seen you something. Been following you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I wasn't even 2 weeks in the club yet. I was like, "Damn, this is how it's gonna be."
Oh, man.
It
He's
was
like,
it was tough.
welcome to the world of outlaw motorcycle clubs.
Yeah, for real, man.
Now, the night that this accident happens, it was nighttime, right? Like late at night?
Yeah, it was like I believe it was like 3 in the morning, something like that.
So how did your day go? Can you walk me through it?
I could walk you through what I remember of it.
Yeah.
So, I had court that day. I had court that day. It was my last day of court. I accepted a plea deal that day.
To go to
Um,
prison?
no, to get probation over prison. So I took my plea deal that day. Um, I got my probation. I checked into probation, and checking into probation was the last thing I remember.
So then,
That's the last
what,
thing I
you're drinking, right? Like,
remember.
I'm not in
Yeah,
prison.
yeah. I started drinking, and I guess I go, I go home, I change and stuff. I go out with a few of the guys that night. We go out to a couple of bars, and we're drinking, we're bar hopping, and yeah, I don't know any of that. I don't remember any of that part.
So when you wake up, what's it like when you wake up? And are you like, where am I? Are you like,
So I don't remember about like the first week and a half after my accident. I don't like. I remember bits and pieces, but I
did
don't
you have
remember
head
like.
injury too? Were you all
Yeah,
all banged up all over?
yeah. I split my head open. I don't know if you can see like right here. Split my
Yeah.
head clean open. Um. So yeah, I was labeled TBI, which is traumatic brain injury. So I don't remember about like the first week and a half, and then like when I did come to like my senses, when I did start to realize what was going on, I couldn't talk. I had a tube in my throat.
Oh, when you're
I had a tube
trach.
in my Yeah, I had a trach, so I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak. I wasn't able to move my hands. I wasn't really able to move my arms too much.
When you first
Um,
find out you're paralyzed from the weight, what is it, the waist down or the
yeah, it
chest
was it
down?
was a waist down. So originally they had told my mom that I wouldn't feel anything under my neck ever again. That was the original consensus. But I feel everything.
What are your thoughts when you finally find out you can't move your legs?
It was honestly, it was overwhelming. It was super overwhelming. And for me, like I was thinking like I'm gonna be back on my feet. I'm gonna be back on my feet. And then you start talking to doctors and shit, and you find out that it's not that simple.
They have a lot of different things now that they're having breakthroughs with things,
Yeah, stem cells and all types of different. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Technology is crazy.
So now, can you feel your feet?
Yeah, I feel everything. I feel everything.
So there's definitely improvement, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, did you sever your spinal cord?
Incompletely. It wasn't complete. It was an incomplete break.
What kind of support did you get after this accident?
Uh, I didn't get much support from the club. I'll tell you that much. Uh,
No.
it's heartbreaking that the guys that I thought would be there, to the end, they weren't. Hi. It was more my family. My family was there. My mom came from Florida. She came to New York, and she was, just by my bedside every day, bro. Like, and when she came to New York, she stopped everybody from visiting me. She stopped all visitations because I couldn't speak. Whenever people would come and I would see them, I would get super overwhelmed. And she's seen it happen, and she cut everything off.
Yeah, because the meters start going crazy, right? Do do do.
Yeah, it was bad. I was in a up space, man.
Did you still have your cut? Were you wearing
Uh,
it when the
I
accident
was
happened?
I was wearing
You,
when the accident happened.
so what
So
happened to it?
I have no idea what happened to my cut. I have no idea, but I do know that I was with three other members. So I mean, I would hope they got it, and if they didn't get it, then shame on them.
Now, have you spoken to the club, and what's your status in the club now?
I'm out. I'm out. Not out bad. Um, I'm out by choice. Um, and I speak to. I can count on one hand how many guys I speak to from the club.
So you haven't talked to like the president and really had a conversation about your membership or anything?
My membership was never in question. Um, I told them when I was in the hospital, I said I'm done, and it was just more about me understanding that I needed to focus on myself, and I said I'm done, and I also knew that I wasn't ever gonna get back on a motorcycle. I mean, the president He came to see me a couple times in the hospital. But that's about it. Uh, no phone calls, nothing. Um, anybody? I mean, like I said, the handful of guys, man. My best friend is still Ching A Lings. You know, still my dude, my right hand man. But I don't, I don't take it. I don't take it anyway, bro. I don't look at it anyway. I'm not offended. I'm happy. Wow,
So
things.
how long has it been since this accident happened?
Uh, it's about to make 2 years in August. It happened August 4th, 2023.
Damn.
Yeah, man.
It's a wild story, man. And what's in store for the future for you?
I just want to help people, bro. However I can help people, I want to help people. I know what it's like to feel alone. I know what it's like to feel like you don't have the support that you need to keep going. And I just want to help people however I can do that. So, I try to share my story whichever way I can. And I hope to become some type of peer mentor for people who have spinal cord injuries, such as myself. Um, and that's pretty much where I'm at right now, man. Like, I just want to help people. I don't know exactly in which way I'm gonna help just yet, but I'll get there.
Well, this is a start. I'm sure a lot of people out there will see this and you'll be able to reach the masses with this,
For sure, bro. That's the plan. That's the plan, bro.
A lot of great things in the future, and I wish you
For
nothing but
sure, bro.
success, man.
For sure, bro. I appreciate it, and you as well, bro. And whatever I can do to help, just let me know, bro. I'm here, bro.
Is there
Whatever you
anyone
need.
else you want to give a shout out to before we go?
Everybody that supports me, man. Everybody that's been there for me. Everybody that's just been there to help me through my situation, man. It's way too many people. My mom is like number one. God is number two. You know, like without my
Definitely.
mom, without God, like I wouldn't have anything. Like. But it's too many people to thank, like one by one. My mom and God are just. That's just those are the only two that I could really think of off the top of my head.
If you like this show, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And if you don't like this show, too bad. Start your own podcast. Peace.